Hey guys, welcome back to Falcon Central Radio, part of the Pro Football Central Radio Network. I am your host, Aaron Freeman, and today we're going to do a film breakdown, and we're breaking down Hayden Hurst, the new Falcons tight end, and we're going to look at about 27, 28 plays of Hayden Hurst, looking at what he brings to the table, looking at some of his explosive plays, looking at his ability to move the chains on third downs, what type of skill set he has, as well as looking at some of his best examples of his blocking and whether or not we can reliably get that this upcoming season. And yeah, man, it's sorry for being a little bit late, guys. I was a little bit under the weather from what I thought might have been coronavirus, but I had a couple of symptoms yesterday, but it was rough. But I'm doing better today. So hopefully, if I did have corona or do have corona, it's a very, very mild case of it. So I'm able to function here. But stay safe out there, guys. All right. So sorry, just getting the tweet out that we're live. First I want to talk about Hayden Hurst's ability as a playmaker. And I know a lot of you guys have seen that big 61-yard catch from Hayden Hurst against the Bills on that touchdown play. And, I think a lot of people see the speed that he showcases on that play. And he certainly, was moving pretty quickly on that play. And I think the perception is that, this is the type of player that he is pretty consistently. And I don't think that's necessarily a fair assessment of what Hayden Hurst brings to the table. That play is certainly a meaningful play, a valuable play, but not one that I think is representative once you do a deeper look into his film. But let's go ahead and show that play for you guys. And where are we? Here we go. All right. So this came against the Bills last season in week 14. You're going to see Hayden Hurst lined up here. In the slot. And he's going to get behind the defense. I'm going to let the play run through. You'll see the sideline angle, the end zone angle first, and then we'll rewind. But you'll notice sort of the play action in the backfield holds this safety that's supposed to be responsible for Hayden Hurst here. And, Lamar Jackson makes a great throw. Hurst hits him in stride, and he goes all the way for the end zone. I'll show you guys again. Let's see that run action in the backfield, holding this safety. You saw it there. Yeah, it just sort of freezes him. He's looking in the backfield, lets Hurst get by him. And, he's sprinting down the field, hits him in stride, doesn't have to break stride. So you get to see him at top speed, not have to decelerate like you often see players do once they have to catch the ball. And, with his 4.67 speed, with that type of separation, you need to be like 4.4 or something like that and have a great angle to catch him. So excellent play by Hayden Hurst on that play, showcasing some of that speed after the catch. Again, not necessarily a normal play for him throughout the season. So I think if you've seen that highlight, don't necessarily expect that to be the normal thing. You're going to also see him find another soft spot in the zone against the Panthers, score another touchdown. This comes in 2018 in week 8. We'll run it through again. And you're going to see these linebackers, Thomas Davis and Shaq Thompson, get bite up. Oh, sorry. Didn't pause it in time. But yeah, so you're going to see these linebackers bite up, right? They're going to get sucked up by this underneath defender. They'll make the cardinal mistake that so many players do when they play in zone coverage is assume, the deep safety, this is Mike Adams here, will be responsible for him. And that doesn't happen. And whether it's Shaq Thompson here or Thomas Davis that's supposed to travel with Hayden Hurst, I think really it's Thompson here just because he crosses into his zone and just, you get that easy pitching catch. Great throw by Lamar Jackson here. Again, you can see this. This is classic Hayden Hurst. This is just, finding soft spots in the zone, being able to exploit that. This isn't, him necessarily beating man coverage or anything like that. But this is one of the plays that you saw on a relatively regular basis for Austin Hooper last season, where he would find these sort of soft spots in the zone. Let's move on to some other plays for Hayden Hurst, some other big plays that he had in. Let's see. Let me see. Here we go. So this is a 32-yard pass he had against the Browns. A lot of his production came against the Browns over the last couple of seasons. This is him right here. Sorry, over the middle. Does a nice job breaking the tackle after the catch. Shows some of that ability after the catch, something that we saw from Austin Hooper here in Atlanta the last couple of years, showing some toughness after the catch. Just a poor job tackling by the Browns right there, as you guys saw. And let's show it again so that you can see, once again, the action in the backfield by Lamar Jackson on this fake to Gus Edwards is going to hold this linebacker right here and suck him up. Hayden Hurst is going to slip in behind this guy, and you're going to see him, rumble his way. You see that run action in the backfield, sucking up that linebacker right here. Hayden Hurst is right here on your screen on the right side. He's going to run across the middle, get right behind him, wide open window, poor tackling right there. That little, I don't even know what this is. Just like they didn't want, guys making business decisions, I guess. And Hayden Hurst sort of rumbling to a 32-yard gain on that particular play. This other play I'm going to show you guys is a play where, when I talked earlier about questions about Hayden Hurst's speed, you're going to see some bursts from him on this play. He's lined up here in the backfield. He's going to run out. There's some good bursts right there. He's going to get on top of the linebacker, but he's not going to be able to stay on top of the linebacker. That's Mack Wilson, the Browns linebacker. And that's what I mean when I sit here and say, Hurst has good speed, but not necessarily the type of speed where I think people are, if they're watching that one play against the Bills, expecting it to be something that's on display pretty frequently. Obviously, Lamar Jackson overthrows him on this play. And you can sort of see, when he makes that first cut upfield, Hayden Hurst, again, down here towards the bottom of your screen, you're going to see that speed to get on top of the linebacker. And then when he slows down to sort of turn to try to find where the ball is coming, then you sort of see Mack Wilson, the linebacker, sort of close the gap. Mack Wilson has about 4.65 speed, and you're not going to see it look like Mack Wilson can't run with Hayden Hurst. And that's what I mean when I say, his speed is not bad or anything like that, because, again, you see him being able to get past that defender. But he's not a guy that I think, in one-on-one situations you're going to see him create mismatches against, most NFL linebackers, particularly starting caliber NFL linebackers, all of whom typically run those sub 4.7 40. So, this play is obviously on the fault of Lamar Jackson. He throws it to Hurst's outside shoulder, but just throws it a little bit too far upfield. You want this ball to be a little bit so that Hurst can just sort of turn around and sort of pluck it out of the air over his shoulder, and Jackson just misses. That ball should be over here somewhere, so Hurst can extend. So those are some of the big plays that we saw from Hayden Hurst. I got a couple of more ones from him against the Browns in previous year. Let me take that off. Unfortunately, there are some issues with Game Pass. Not every play is searchable. There you go. Let me see. So first play I'm going to show you guys is a 29-yard play from Hayden Hurst against the Browns. And this is going to be a good instance of him making a nice adjustment down that seam on that sort of skinny post type of play. Low throw, sort of snatching it out of the air. Again, finding some space in between the linebackers, exploiting that sort of intermediate zone. You'll see it again at the top of your screen. I know it's difficult to see. Do I need to adjust? It's about as good as it's going to get. Yeah, so you see him sort of go low, make that adjustment there. Sorry, I know it's difficult to see because he's at the top of the screen, but you can kind of see that adjustment that he's making to sort of extend away from his body. Bad. I think this is Mac Wilson as well, or Jamie Collins. I don't remember which one of these guys. Just not in position there, sort of biting outside. Don't even know what he's looking at. He's reading Jackson. Jackson's not even looking to the outside, and he just bites outside. And Hurst just exploits it. So a solid play for Hurst, getting some yak. You can see it a little bit better from the sideline angle. He, again, that burst that he's going to show a little bit to create right there, that little burst right there. Some nice burst to get some additional yards after the catch. The very next play, he's going to get another big catch here. And this is going to showcase his ability to make these mid-air adjustments. He's going to be right here. And this is a great catch by him. Unfortunately, this play is nullified by a penalty, so it doesn't count. 27-yard gain nullified by a penalty. Here's Hayden Hurst again. You'll see right there. Great adjustment in the air, showing that body control, one-on-one against the linebacker. I think that's Joe Schobert. Get behind that linebacker on the over route, make that adjustment, secure the ball. And this is going to be a running theme with Hayden Hurst and sort of what we'll get more into as we move along with the film study, which is he's a guy that's not going to be a guy that's going to win with, speed and athleticism, I think, as maybe some people are going to sit here and suggest based off of watching a handful of plays. Where he's going to win is really with his ability to gain the trust and rapport with the quarterback. And on plays like that, where he's not necessarily wide open, but you're going to see instances where the quarterback, like you saw with Austin Hooper, where the quarterback has that confidence and that faith in him that he is going to be able to, create those little bits of separation, make those slight adjustments, and the quarterback is going to trust him to go get the football. And that's really where Hayden Hurst does his best work. That's the same area that Austin Hooper does his best work. And that was a big reason why Hayden Hurst didn't necessarily have as much success in Baltimore, because he wasn't able to build that trust and rapport quite with Lamar Jackson, like you saw with a guy like Mark Andrews, who's definitely a player that's capable of winning above the rim, and did that many, many times throughout the last couple of seasons. And let's see. Let's show some more of that ability from Hayden Hurst starting here in a Week 17 game against the Steelers. Of course, always does this. Sorry, guys. Technical issues with Game Pass. It always does this for some reason. It doesn't want to go full screen when you are okay, here we go. Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. So this is a 20-yard play he has against the Steelers. He's going to be right here, flexed out. He's just going to, again, find a soft spot in the zone. But I think really what I want to show is the ability to make that adjustment, extend away from his body on the thrown behind him. I think this is RG3. Yeah, this is RG3 and at quarterback, and sort of makes that adjustment over the middle, gets in that soft spot in the zone. Again, you can't really see it great from that angle, but there you go. See that nice adjustment where RG3 is going to throw it tad behind him, but he's going to make that nice adjustment over the middle, sit down, get a 20-yard play. Let's move on to a 23-yard play against the Dolphins, where I think, again, this is going to be Jackson. It's going to extend the play a little bit. Hayden Hurst is here, right here. And then, yeah, Hurst is going to break over the middle. You're going to see him make a nice adjustment on the throw behind him. You'll see it better from the end zone angle. Coming up here, that's Hayden Hurst right here off the screen to your right. He's going to sit over the middle and then sort of win on a scramble drill. And then again, you see that ability to make that adjustment after the catch. But again, like not exactly using that speed to run away from Walt Aikens there in the case of, so I don't think people should act like, oh, he's a speed threat or anything like that. But that's, Jackson's ability, initially the design of the play is a little hitch route there. And Jackson sort of buys him a little bit of time to extend the play and opens up a window where he can get away from the defender. Let's see. Our next play is his next catch against the Dolphins. And now we're going to talk a little bit about that third down reliability. And, one of the interesting things about Hayden Hurst was that when you looked at his ability on third downs on like 3rd and 8 or less, his conversion rate over the last 2 seasons in Baltimore was like 75%. You look at Hooper's conversion rate in Atlanta over that same span, it was about 50% on like 3rd and relatively medium or shorts. And, some of that ability of Hayden Hurst to have that high percentage is due to plays like you just saw before, where Lamar Jackson's ability to extend plays is going to allow him that extra time to create that separation and get open and whatnot. But this is going to be a play where he's going to be lined up here in the slot right here, and he's just going to win. It's a 3rd and 4, I think, and he's just going to win. This RG3 here is at the quarterback. He's just going to simply beat Aikens on an out pattern, just good, solid route running, create that little separation, well-timed throw, and Hurst makes a great grab there. So this is just a good example of sort of that chain moving ability. There's Hayden Hurst here on the right side of your screen. He's just going to run sort of that vertical stem. I don't know if you're really going to be able to see it. Yeah. But then creating that little separation, you can see a little bit better from the sideline, making the grab in traffic. Again, let's see if we can zoom in a little bit so you guys can see that a little bit better. Yeah. So just boom, that little separation right there, well-timed throw, those out patterns like that when you're not really creating a ton of separation there, the ball needs to come out on time. RG3 is maybe tad bit beat because you want this ball to come out maybe right before Hurst is going into his break. So you want the ball coming out. You want RG3 on this windup right here. But, he's a beat late, not too slow. And because, Walt Aikens isn't necessarily, Keanu Neal here or anything like that. Hurst can win on those sort of one-on-one matchups. Let's showcase this one. This is going to be another example of Lamar Jackson extending the play. Hayden Hurst is here in the slot towards the bottom of your screen. But what I like about this play, even though it's not necessarily Hayden Hurst, winning one-on-one, he's going to show some nice hands and some nice body control on the sideline to sort of make the grab going out of bounds. And so even though he's not necessarily winning against, I forget who the defensive back is on this play, Shaq Griffin. Yeah, just good job making that adjustment on the sideline. Jackson putting the ball in the right spot. That Hurst is the only guy who can get it. Again, this is another 3rd down, I believe, but results in a conversion. Initially not necessarily open unless that ball's going to come out like boom right there. Yeah, just trustworthy. That shows that ability to have that trust in him on 3rd downs, and he can sort of help this offense move the chains pretty effectively. Let's go to really where the bulk of Hayden Hurst's production comes from and the types of plays that he typically wins on. It's going to be a lot of sort of short stuff. We have some intermediate throws in here, but you go back to some of his games. Oh, wrong week. This one, divisional round. So you look back, like he's had 2 games over his career where he's had 4 or more catches, and these are 2 of them. And we're going to first show you the Titans game, which was the most recent one against the playoffs where the Titans beat the Ravens. And he gets a lot of production. You can argue in garbage time because it's in the second half of the game when the Ravens are behind. Hayden Hurst is going to do that little stutter step over the middle, make the grab in behind. This is what I mean when I say like the bulk of his production is going to be on the short intermediate stuff. Again, just like we saw with Austin Hooper, where a lot of his production, he sort of makes the grab. If you really slow it down, you can kind of see that Kevin Byard, who's covering him on this play, just through sheer luck, doesn't break this pass up because you can see his hand is there, but that ball, I guess he's like a split second too late or whatever the case may be. So nice win for Hayden Hurst to put Kevin Byard on his hip pocket, extend away from the body, make the grab. But, that play probably should have been broken up if we're being honest. Let's go to a 15-yard touchdown that he has against the Titans later in the game at the beginning of the fourth quarter. And this is going to, again, be another great mid-air adjustment for Hayden Hurst, not necessarily being open, but his quarterback being able to fit the ball into a pretty tight window. That's showing that trust from Lamar Jackson. And again, this is what you're hoping to see a lot from Hayden Hurst this upcoming season with Matt Ryan, where he's not really that open. He's got a slight step on the defensive back. I think that's Kenny Vaccaro. And, just makes a great adjustment on a throw that's like slightly behind him, but climbing the ladder to go get that football. Again, Hayden Hurst over the middle there. And didn't see a lot of plays where Hayden Hurst was a featured part of the red zone offense. So I don't have that many plays here for that. And here's a play that, just for, fun, you're going to see Hayden Hurst. He's here. Just, you'll see it better from this angle. It just doesn't turn around quickly enough. Ball sort of hits him in the face mask. Little doink. Just want to have a little bit of fun here, guys, so you'll see it one more time. Doink, you got to get the timing right, Hayden Hurst. But, nothing big deal. I just thought that was fun to watch a little bit. But let's move a little bit further. 18-yard pass. This is a simple check down and a flat, and you can, again, see Hayden Hurst right here at the bottom of your screen. Get some yards after the catch, show some burst there. And, turn what is a pretty simple play into a nice, decent gain of 18 yards to keep the offense rolling at this point in the game. I think at this point in the game, Titans are up pretty big, up like 2 scores or something. And it's like the final 2 minutes of the game. But a nice little simple sort of catch, getting some yak after the play. And sort of that's kind of what Hayden Hurst does. Again, another little quick out here where he turns it upfield, gets decent yards. This is another third down conversion. This is a 3rd and 1. So again, like finding a soft spot underneath the zone, catching that ball and turning it up. So that was where a lot of his production came, a lot of sort of short stuff. Let's move on to the Steeler game. And the first play is going to be an easy 11-yard completion where they're going to create on a crossing pattern. Sorry for being a little bit behind. I had to read my notes real quick to see which play this was. But you're going to see Hayden Hurst right here on the cross route. This play is designed to go to him a little bit just because you're going to see Mark Andrews over the middle sort of crash over here and sort of create this window underneath where Mark Barons is going to be caught out of sorts, and Hayden Hurst is going to make that nice little catch. You can see it better from the sideline angle. So I think this is a 3rd down conversion as well, or maybe it's a 1st down play. I don't remember. But a solid little gain and able to move the chains on that sort of shallow stuff that we're talking about. Oh, no, it's the second and 7. So still well-designed play. You're going to see a 2-yard play here. Jackson's going to throw a little bit late to Hayden Hurst. He's moving there in motion. And it's just a little quick out against Mark Barron. And because Jackson's a little bit late because he wants to go down the field, it's like a 2nd and 11. And it results in a 2-yard gain. And maybe if Jackson throws a little bit sooner, it's maybe a 4 or 5 yard gain. But again, these are the types of plays that typically Hayden Hurst is going to win on, these sort of underneath stuff. Again, people knocked Austin Hooper for, so much of his production coming on short stuff and whatnot. But, Hayden Hurst is going to get a lot of his production that way as well. That's not going to change in this offense. So again, decent 2-yard gain. Let's move on to the next play. You're going to get a clear out where Hayden Hurst is going to run another crossing pattern, another shallow cross. But because you're going to see these guys sort of running vertically, it's going to create this window for him. And he's going to, be able to get enough separation from Joe Hayden, who's late, sort of covering him over the middle. Hayden Hurst right here, a 13-yard gain. This is going to convert a 2nd and 7 as well against the Steelers. Yeah, so again, not necessarily a guy that's running away from cornerbacks, as you can see, but just, that hesitation enough to get that separation on that crossing pattern for the against the Steelers. In the last play catch he had was a 6-yard gain, and this is good. He's going to be lined at the top. He's just going to run a simple hitch. Jackson's going to be late on this play. Probably should have thrown the ball more inside. Doesn't really give him a chance to get some yards at the catch, but you'll see. Hurst is pretty open at the top of the screen, pretty much from the get, because this cornerback is going to be worried about this more vertical route, as he should be in cover 3. And Hurst is, there the whole time. Jackson doesn't give him much. But again, the point of me showing that play is just like, those are the simple plays, the underneath stuff. That's a 6-yard hitch or whatever the case may be. If Jackson throws it on time, he has a chance to get more yards after the catch. But these are the types of plays that Hurst is going to get a lot of, and it's going to not be that much different from what Austin Hooper was able to provide for the team these past couple of years. Now we're going to get into Hayden Hurst's blocking ability. Sorry, guys. And we're going to go and show you a game from 2018 where this is one of the better graded games for Hayden Hurst as a blocker. I think this is the first play. And you're going to see him sort of pull on this play. This is him right here. And he's going to get enough of Devonta David that is going to get in Devonta David's way. It's not a great blocking play to show you great blocking technique or anything like that, but Hayden Hurst is going to get enough to prevent Devonta David, with a little shoulder shrug right there, to spring Kenneth Dixon on that sort of lead right here. Again, and then you get the rest of these guys creating that alley, and Dixon's going to hit it for a 10-yard gain. So, that's what we call winning your assignment, even if you don't win it in the prettiest possible way. This is going to be Hayden Hurst as a blocker I think he's right here. He's going to hold the point of attack against Carl Nassib. I got like 7 or 8 of these blocking plays I want to show you guys, so bear with me. I know blocking is not as exciting, but there's Hayden Hurst there on the right side of your screen, getting enough position against Carl Nassib. But this is one of Hayden Hurst's better blocking games, certainly from a Pro Football Focus grade, and certainly from my film study watching him play, because one of the things we'll get into it a little bit further once we get through some of these plays. But particularly this past season, there's Hayden Hurst doing a great job against, I don't remember, I think Josh Shaw is number 30, the cornerback, like a 4th string corner, this guy right here. Good job getting position there against the corner and creating that little alley for Gus Edwards, I believe. And that's good blocking. That's outstanding blocking against the corner or safety or whoever that is. And that's what you want to see. You want to see tight ends winning against cornerbacks. Let's move on to the next play. This is going to be, he's going to miss his assignment as the lead blocker, working out of this sort of fullback position against Devonta David, and it's going to result in a 3-yard gain. You'll see it better from the end zone angle, and I'll slow it down after we run it through one time. Right. So if you miss that, Hayden Hurst is here, right? He's going to run that lead up the middle. He's going to be on this guy's hip pocket. Right now, he needs to turn it up and try to get this guy. This is Devonta David, and he's going to miss this assignment. As you can see, he's looking here, thinking that, you know, the run is going to go outside, but he needs to climb to the second level. And, you know, he's not a fullback. You know, a fullback is going to have that vision, and by the time he realizes he needs to turn it up, you know, the running back's practically past him, and so he's not going to be able to get in position to make that block against Devonta David. So, you know, he can do some stuff out of the backfield as a fullback, as an H-back, that type of player. He has experience doing that, but that's not really a great strength of his. But obviously, the Falcons won't need him to do that much of it because they have Keith Smith as their fullback. Here's another good job of Hurst on the edge. He's going to crash down against Devonta David right there with that sort of down block and create that little seal just to give I think Edwards enough room. This is a 3rd and 1, I think, or 3rd and 2. So they convert here. So that's a good block. That's going to be the difference between converting or not, with Edwards making that move on the outside to avoid that edge defender here coming off the edge. And you'll see Hayden Hurst get that block there. And that's just enough that he needs to get that conversion on 3rd and short. Let's move on to the next play. This is going to be a nice kick out block by Hayden Hurst. It's going to help create an alley. Again, you're going to have him in the backfield. Nice kick out block against Devonta David as well. And that's going to create that alley for Gus Edwards to get a 7-yard gain. You're going to see it better from this angle. Just a nice solid kick out block there. Right? That's hitting your assignment. You know, you don't need to get a pancake there. Just do your job. Let's see. Next play. Okay, yeah, we're on the next play. Sorry, guys. Let's rewind. He's going to miss the kick-out block there. That's what that play shows you. Sorry, let me rewind it so you guys can actually see. Okay, I'm sorry. Once again, he's going to be in the backfield, and he's going to miss on the kick-out block, which is going to allow the defender to slow up whoever, Gus Edwards, whoever that running back is. So I'll rewind it. I know I'm butchering this. This is what happens when you're running through all this stuff. Here's Hayden Hurst. When you're tired, when you're dealing with coronavirus, he's going to whiff on that kick out block. He's going to run around it, but the defender is going to not make the play, but slow up the running back enough that it's going to be like a 3-yard gain. And then the last play I want to show you is he's not going to be able to get leverage against Devonta David right here when trying to create an alley. Doesn't get any push there. You'll see it better from the end zone angle. And the thing about Hayden Hurst, when you watch most of his blocking, and again, this is one of the best games he's had of his career, where he had a lot of plays blocking and was able to get a relatively high grade. One of the things you'll notice with Hayden Hurst, again, right here on the right side of your screens, supposed to make that block there. Devonta David is going to sort of close down that alley. As you guys can see, he doesn't get enough position there, push him into the running back slap, and so there's no lane there. So you want to see better blocking there. But the thing about Hayden Hurst, that's all the plays I have for you guys today. But like talking about Hayden Hurst blocking, one of the things that you notice when you watch more of his blocking games, and then again, that was one of the better games he had against the Bucs in 2018 in terms of his highest grade, is those he's had a couple of games like that where, you know, he had like a 65, 70 grade as a run blocker. But for the most part, most of his run blocking grades are going to be in like the 50s, which is basically below average. And the thing you'll notice with the Ravens and how they ran their running game offense is most of the games, and like that Bucs game, he didn't get into the game really as a blocker until like the third, fourth quarter. Most of those plays I showed you were in the fourth quarter, because he was always consistently the third or fourth best blocker. and their team, and because their offense, particularly after they went to Lamar Jackson, revolved around running the football, you didn't see the Ravens really give him that many opportunities to block, because they knew, compared to Mark Andrews, compared to Nick Boyle, and even Max Williams going back to that 2018 season, he was not as effective a blocker. And because so much of their offense is geared towards running the football, he wouldn't really get into the games in those situations as one of their top two tight ends early in the game. It was only really in the fourth quarter, usually in games where the Ravens had built a lead or were well behind, you would see Hayden Hurst get into the mix as a blocking tight end. In some games, most of the games, he would be pretty mundane. And it showed you some of those positive plays, some of those negative plays. But one of the things I noticed watching the film of his blocking was that rarely did the Ravens run behind him. This game I showed you guys against the Buccaneers was one of the few games where you did see him sort of as the quote-unquote lead blocker on a lot of plays. But usually if he would line up on the right side of the line, they would run to the left. If he lined up on the left side, they would run to the right. So it was very clear that the Ravens didn't necessarily trust in his blocking. And I know Hooper has a reputation from a lot of people that his blocking isn't good. And I think, the facts speak for themselves that that's not necessarily the case. Hooper was actually a pretty effective blocker over his time here in Atlanta, and much more effective than Hurst was in Baltimore. This past season was a little bit of a down year for Hooper. I personally blame Mike Mularkey, but I'm always going to blame Mike Mularkey and Dirk Cutter for everything. That's just me. And not having Wade Harmon out there, who's an excellent tight end coach, sort of focusing on the details and the fundamentals. But that's my own personal theory. And I just wanted to make that point that I don't think that game I just showed you, where we saw some positive plays, is representative of the whole as Hurst's blocking ability. But certainly I think he can bring something to the table there. And hopefully with time and development, we can see more games like that Buccaneers game happen more often. And there's no reason to think that he can't become a better blocker than what he was in Baltimore. But so far, not as consistent. But, those are the main things I wanted to show you guys. I think what Hurst is, he has a reliable set of hands. If you go and you watch any sort of highlight clips, you're going to see a lot of one-handed catches. That's not necessarily something that I'm going to really highlight on this sort of thing, because one-handed catches, while awesome on the highlight reels, don't really mean anything. A lot of those plays that you'll see a guy make a one-handed catch, he could have easily made that catch with two hands, but for whatever reason, only put one hand out there to make that grab. So definitely has good hands. You're not going to see a lot of drop passes from him. He's going to be the type of guy that if you quarterback and him have a nice trust and rapport, you're going to see, some of those tight window throws that we showed on the film, where it's, climbing the ladder, whether that's, putting the ball in the right spot, those types of things. And that's really, again, like Austin Hooper, I think really where Hayden Hurst wins. I think when people start talking about his speed and athleticism, I think they're kind of missing really where he wins. He's going to be a guy that's going to win on those short and underneath things. He's going to find those soft spots in the zone. He's not going to be this matchup guy. And so when I think people focus on and talk up his speed and athleticism, sure, like you're going to see plays like we saw where he's going to be able to make some plays after the catch. He's going to get some big plays, but that's not going to be like a regular feature of the offense, just like it wasn't a regular feature of the offense with Austin Hooper. You saw those plays throughout, the last several years with Austin Hooper, where he would, make some big plays down the field or, after the catch or whatever the case may be. But you guys know that watching the bulk of Austin Hooper's production, that wasn't the majority. That wasn't a sort of a regular part of the offense, and it's not going to be a regular part of the offense with Hayden Hurst. And again, I only showed you guys 20 or so passing plays of his, and we can go through and there's 69, I think, career targets for him, and the bulk of those other 50 plays or so are going to be the short and intermediate stuff. Pretty much, I showed you the vast majority. I think I showed you half of his deep targets. He had 9 in his career, and I think I showed you 5 or 6 of them. So, that kind of tells you that those sort of quote unquote dink and dunking stuff is really sort of the bulk of his plays. But those are sort of mundane and don't necessarily really highlight a whole lot other than just sort of he settles into a soft spot of the zone, and makes a nice catch on a 7-yard gain. Like, those aren't necessarily plays that are really going to be as exciting on these sort of film breakdowns. But I showed you a couple of those plays where, he wins underneath, gets some decent yardage after the catch. But I think that's really what Hurst's ability is going to be. He's going to be able to slide in to that void left by Austin Hooper. And like with Austin Hooper, it's going to take some time for him to build that trust and rapport with Matt Ryan. And I think that's where he's going to win in over the next 2+ years that he's with the Falcons. And I don't think you're going to see that happen overnight, especially given the concerns that we're going to have a very limited offseason for this upcoming season. So it's going to take some time for Hayden Hurst to build that trust and rapport. The hope is, I think probably the most optimistic perspective is that, probably halfway or 2/3 of the way through this upcoming season, that you'll start to see those guys click a little bit better. That to me is probably the most optimistic perspective. It may take an entire season for Matt Ryan and Hayden Hurst to sort of click together. It may take, this entire season and then next offseason where they get a full offseason of working together before you start to see that sort of rapport and trust build in the 2021 season as opposed to the 2020 season. But again, I think if the Falcons go into the season saying, okay, we're going to ask Hayden Hurst to run a lot of these underneath stuff, this intermediate stuff, and then occasionally make a big play down the field, he can be a productive starter for this team. And certainly I think will be a lot more productive starter than the alternative option, which probably was a rookie. I think you can certainly make the argument that the Falcons could have gotten a better tight end in free agency, but that was going to be a little bit more expensive from a financial standpoint than what the Falcons are going to wind up paying for Hayden Hurst. I think he's going to be making like $3.4 million over the next 2 seasons in terms of their salary cap, which is going to be considerably cheaper than a player that I think is arguably better, like an Eric Ebron, but I think the Steelers are going to be paying like $12 million over the next 2 years for Ebron. So the Falcons are essentially saving like $9 million against the salary cap over the next 2 years than what the potential alternative would be in free agency. Again, I think you're getting a better player in Ebron because I think Ebron is much more of that mismatch guy that I think a lot of people are trying to put on Hurst. But you're saving $9 million. You are giving up some value in the draft with that second round pick. But, I think given what Hurst is going to be is sort of fill that Austin Hooper size hole in your offense. I think he has the skill set to do so. And we'll sort of have to see what happens over the next 2 seasons with Hayden Hurst. Presumably after this upcoming season, the Falcons will have to make a decision on whether to extend his 5th-year option. I'm at this point in time skeptical whether they will actually do that. But then I think going in that 2021 season where I'm a little bit more optimistic that you're going to see Hayden Hurst start to make that leap and start to put up the type of production that we've grown accustomed to Austin Hooper, over the last 2 seasons where he was a Pro Bowl caliber tight end. I think 2021, you'll see Hayden Hurst do that. And then if he does do that, then there will be an opportunity for the Falcons to re-sign him after that season when his contract is up in 2022. That spring or whatever the case, and give him that extension. We'll see. He'll be a little bit older at that point, I think 28, 29 when he hits free agency as opposed to 25, 26 when Austin Hooper hit free agency. So we'll see how that factors in. We'll see if there's a different coaching staff in place here in Atlanta at that point in time and what decision they'll make. So I'm not necessarily sitting here convinced that Hayden Hurst is going to be a long-term fixture here in Atlanta because it depends on what happens over the next 2 seasons with him and with the coaching staff and whoever's running the front office. But I think he's a very effective player. And so I certainly think what we're getting in Hayden Hurst, and I hope, maybe this wasn't as definitive a film study as the Todd Gurley one, but, I hope you guys got a good idea of sort of what Hayden Hurst is bringing to the table as far as his ability as a pass catcher. So if you guys have any questions in the chat, by all means, send them in. I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I have to sort of sit here and wait as you guys are catching up as I'm speaking. But yeah, I think next week, assuming I'm still alive and I don't have coronavirus, we will do a Dante Fowler film breakdown on next weekend, next Saturday. And in the meantime, as you guys send in any questions you may have or comments you may have in the chat here on YouTube, I should go ahead and plug sort of what is coming up on Falcon Central Radio this upcoming week. And we'll probably get into a little bit more draft conversation. And on Thursday night, we'll see what guests we can get. I think we'll been talking with somebody about being potentially on that show. So we'll see if we can coordinate the schedules and whatnot. What would the 5th-year option be for him? I don't know off the top of my head. My guess is probably because they changed that with the new CBA. So I don't really know what it will be because they changed how the 5th-year options work and how they're calculated. So I have no idea what it is, if I'm being honest. I could pull a number out of my butt if that makes you feel better, Andy. But let's say $7 million, $8 million. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But yeah, they changed how the 5th-year options work with the new CBA that they signed, which is basically the way it works now is starting with this 2018 draft class. So after this season, starting with Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst, who the Falcons will have to decide whether they want to extend their 5th-year options. It just won't apply to Takk McKinley when what the Falcons decide to do later this spring, which seems likely that they won't extend that option. But starting with the 2018 draft class next spring, if you extend the 5th-year option, it automatically becomes guaranteed. You can't get out of it. The way it used to work is that you could extend the 5th-year option, and then if the player wasn't hurt going into his 5th year, you could rescind the 5th-year option and cut the player. And that was the thing that everybody wanted the Falcons to do with Vic Beasley. The Falcons chose not to do that, much to the chagrin of everybody in the world. That was the big crisis. That was the problem in 2019 before the coronavirus hit, as you guys may recall. But you won't have that option in the future. Once you extend it, it's fully guaranteed. You can't get out of it. So what that's going to wind up doing, the way that's going to impact is you're going to see far less players get 5th-year options. It used to be, the way it used to work is everybody that the team wanted to keep would get a 5th-year option. And if you didn't get a 5th-year option, that was pretty much a guarantee that you weren't going to get a new deal from your team that drafted you. I think one player over the last 4 years, like Kyle Fuller with the Bears, didn't get the 5th-year option and still got re-signed by his team. Everybody else walks. But it was 2/3 of players, 2/3 of the first-round picks, I think, got 5th-year options over the last couple of off seasons. Now it's going to be, I don't think teams are going to do that. I think because they're fully guaranteed, you can't get out of it. You have to be more than confident that we want to commit X number of dollars, whatever that number is, whether it's $6 million, $8 million, $10 million, $12 million. Again, depends on the player, depends on the position, depends on where he got drafted. I don't know those numbers off the top of my head, how it works out. But you have to be very confident that that guy's going to live up to that contract. And so I think when it comes out of the Falcons, my guess is sitting here today, we'll see what happens this season. Sitting here today, I would say if anybody's going to get the 5th-year option after this season, it's going to be Calvin Ridley, not Hayden Hurst. But we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so continue off of Andy's point. He says chances are high that they won't pick it up even if he plays well then. Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of the case where you just can't get out of it. So you have to be very confident after seeing a guy for 3 years, because that's when you now extend the 5th-year options, that you're going to keep that guy. Otherwise, you just might as well just say, you know what, we'll play it by ear. And if you play well in years 3 and 4, or year 4, then we'll give you a new contract. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. CD3224 says, I've watched about 5 Rams games last season and Durley doesn't look that bad. Yeah, he doesn't. I hope my film breakdown from last weekend didn't give you guys the impression that Gurley's bad. He's not bad. He's just not, peak Todd Gurley offensive player of the year guy. That's what he's not. He's still a good running back. He's still probably one of the 15 best running backs in the league. I don't know if he's top 10 guy. Certainly not a top 5 guy like he was at his peak. but he's probably in that 10 to 15, 10 to 16 range. If you were ranking running backs, he's still a good running back, and if you have good blocking, that's all you really need. It's only really those top 5 to 7 guys that can, succeed without great blocking. And once upon a time, Todd Gurley was that guy. But even in 2016, we saw that he wasn't really that guy behind a pretty rough Rams offensive line. So even the best running backs can't always just thrive because of, poor blocking or whatever the case may be. So, yeah. Well, guys, sorry if this film review was a little rushed, but again, coronavirus doing some stuff with me, and sort of we'll see how things go with that. But stay safe out there, guys. I hope this was a decent film breakdown of Hayden Hurst in terms of what he can do. Andy's next question. I'm sorry, keep sending in the chat stuff. I'm looking for ways to talk football with you guys on Saturday. So Andy says, any idea why there is no market for Devonta Freeman? My guess is, like a lot of, you're looking at basically outside of Jadeveon Clowney and Darqueze Dennard, and now I guess Eli Apple, these guys that had contracts and then they couldn't come to terms on them. Pretty much everybody that's available in free agency right now is an older player. And because Devontae's not quite 30, but the perception of him is that he's an older running back. What you often see in free agency is that these guys, these older players, have a price tag. They're like, I'm 30 years older, in the case of Devontae, I'm 27, 28, and I want to make a certain amount of money, and I'm going to wait till the market to come to me. And so these older guys can afford to be a little bit patient because they know no one's going to be backing up the Brinks truck of money for them, right out of the gates, like you typically see with some of the younger free agents, like the Gurleys, like the Fowler. You got to, with those guys, you got to kind of strike with the iron hot. And for the veterans, because they've been around the block a little bit, they can afford to wait. So from what I've been told by various people, there have been teams that have been sniffing around Devonta Freeman. I've heard Buffalo. I want to say Detroit was the other team that was told by me, but I might be just porting that over because of the trade stuff from earlier in the season. But I want to say there was another team that someone told me, I think it was Detroit. But I know Buffalo was sort of sniffing around them. And, when you have these nibbles and teams aren't necessarily biting, it's usually because of money. And so, again, I have no idea what Devonta Freeman's asking price is going to be. But my assumption is that, in an ideal world, he'd be trying to get, $5-6 million from somebody. My guess is that nobody really wants to pay that. And so ultimately, he might wind up settling to play for $3 or $4 million or something like that on like a 1-year deal. And we'll see sort of if that happens before the draft or after the draft or whatever the case may be. But I think eventually someone will sign Devonta Freeman on like a 1-year deal for probably like $3 or $4 million. Whether that's a team like Buffalo, probably what will wind up happening with Devonta or a lot of players like him is, teams will go into the draft with the expectations of we're going to get a running back. And that's part of the reason why you don't see some of these veteran players get signed before the draft, because teams are like, well, we're going to get a cheaper, younger, better player in the draft. And then they get to the draft and, they don't get the guy that they want or they're hoping to want. And then they look at, oh, we didn't fill this hole in the draft. Let's look out and see some of these veteran guys that can come in and fill that hole. And then, they become a little bit more willing to fork up the money that, the Devonta Freemans of the world are asking for after the draft. So, I would expect Devonta to be on the team at some point in the next 2 months, whether we see that in the next 2 weeks or we have to wait till like mid or late May or early June or something like that for that to happen remains to be seen. But that's usually how it works with some of these veteran players. In terms of how free agency works, you just kind of have to let the market come to you, and eventually it will. You just have to be patient. You see that with Adrian Claiborne. Adrian Claiborne didn't come out of the gates signing with anybody, even though he was arguably one of the better pass rushers in the league, at least available based off his production this past year. but because teams aren't necessarily as thrilled to pay older guys, the market didn't necessarily fork up huge dollars, and he eventually accepted, I guess, presumably what was the better deal on the table for him with the Cleveland Browns. All right, guys. If you guys have any other chat questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But other than that, coming up on an hour. Enjoyed doing this film breakdown. Again, Hayden Hurst, solid player, will be a reliable chain-moving tight end, just like Austin Hooper was. Again, the question is going to be how quickly him and Matt Ryan get on the same page. Does that happen in 2020? Do we have to wait till 2021? And so again, if you're sort of my official prediction, Hayden Hurst's 2020 is going to be similar to Austin Hooper's 2017, where you're going to see some positive, you're going to see some negative. It's going to be a little up and down, not be the sort of consistent that you saw from Hooper in subsequent years in 2018 and 2019. And then 2021, you'll see Hayden Hurst have those sort of 2018 Hooper, 2019 Hooper type of seasons where he's very consistent, very reliable, that sort of thing. So that's my expectations for Hayden Hurst moving forward, guys. So I hope the film breakdown sort of showed you guys some of the things that he's good at. And hopefully we can see sort of him continue to develop over the next couple of years here in Atlanta. Hopefully he'll be able to play a long time here, but I think at the very least he's a decent 2-year rental. And certainly it's going to give you more value there than the alternative as a rookie over the next 2 years. PFF CD3224 last comment here says PFF ranked the Falcons O-line 11th in run blocking in 2019, so Gurley could perhaps problem for defense in 2020. Yeah, man, PFF with these sort of O-line grades, I always like these are a little sketchy to me because they're like the cumulative collective grade. So you like if you have like a couple of guys that grade really highly, it's going to bring up the whole unit, as opposed to like I wouldn't pay too much attention to that. Like I think the Falcons run blocking was better than the Rams, certainly, but top 11, man, then either the blocking league wide is terrible, or I just think, Alex Mack and Jake Matthews and Chris Lindstrom graded high enough that it kind of made the Falcons offensive line look better than what it actually was last season as a run blocking unit. So I wouldn't say they're top 11 if you're asking me. I think they have some good blockers, don't get me wrong, but I think collectively they probably weren't the 11th best unit. But I would say collectively they were better than the Rams because the Rams had like 3 rookies starting on their offensive line by the end of the year. So, that was a part of why Gurley took a step back, was the offensive line play for the Rams was a lot worse in 2019 than it was in 2018, but it wasn't the only reason, is what I will say. So the Falcons got to get better. Basically, all of this to say is the Falcons have to do better run blocking this upcoming season, be a little bit more consistent. I think they can with a healthy Lindstrom. If Alex Mack, if Alex Mack can stave off Father Time for another year, you get Jake Matthews playing at another high level. You get rid of James Carpenter. No offense to James Carpenter, but he has no business being on this team this season, unless there's injuries to Matt Gano and Jamon Brown in training camp. Should we have training camp? But yeah, James Carpenter was a terrible run blocker, terrible last year. And that was a big reason why I don't think the Falcons running game was that effective, because this team, for some reason, was like, hey, let's keep James Carpenter in. I don't get that. But yeah, so I think they'll be better. I think they'll be fine. They'll be fine. I'm not going to sit here and say that we're going to have a great run blocking offensive line, but we're better than the Rams. That's fair. I don't know about 11th. I'd be like 17th or 18th or something like that. Like I could buy that, but 11th, I'm a little sketchy of that, But so there you guys have it. Hayden Hurst, Todd Gurley last week. Check it out. Part of the Pro Football Central. Subscribe to PF Central, Pro Football Central on YouTube. Like this video. Retweet it, support us. Follow me on Twitter at FalcFans. Follow the show at Falcons PFC. You can find the audio links of this show. I'll put up the audio on this on the various podcast platforms like Stitcher and Google and Apple. But of course, obviously, if you're listening to this, amazing if you listen to the audio version of this to this point, and now you're like, oh, there's a video version of this. Yeah, go watch the video version of this. This would be the boringest hour of your life if you just listen to the audio of this film breakdown. And you can find all the links to that stuff on the audio version of this podcast when we do the regular show throughout the week on profootballcentral.com or on the Falcons PFC pinned tweet at the top of their page. Let me see, Falcon Central Radio on Facebook. At some point, we'll put some Facebook content up there for you guys. Maybe I'll post this up there as well. And let's see what else. What else do I have to plug? I'm sorry if I think that's it. So yeah. All right, guys. Peace out.